meetings.
Chris?
Yes.
One thing I would like to say about cutting the number down to 9, whoever is voted onto this committee tonight may or may not serve out until the building is built. Right? The composition of school building committees change as the project evolves and time goes on. Some people move out of town. Some people, you know, can't do it, health reasons, whatever. So the composition of the committee will change and has changed. When the project was done up at the high school, middle school project, the composition of that committee changed over the years as well. That was a Narragansett Regional School building project, not a Town of Templeton building project. So I think at this point, we should keep with the smaller number 9, so that 9 would be the quorum. So you would need at least 5 people to get the business done. And I think that's a manageable number to get people together. As the project picks up, this is just for the feasibility study, okay? This is the first step. If the feasibility study isn't successful, then the project is ended. So I think we should be able to come up with 9 committed individuals to making sure the feasibility part of the project gets done and is successful. I think that's the criteria we should be looking at from all the people who've submitted. I also think it is a town project, and I think that was part of the problem with the elementary school building committee. It was, the town got away from really overseeing it. And so I think it lost its momentum, it lost its focus. So I think now, as a town, it's a town project. I think we need to be more representative on the town side and more active on the town side and take ownership of this project. Because it's our project, it's our elementary school.
Virginia?
Yes, so did we have letters of interest come to us?
Yes. That list in the back, I believe, in your book is everybody that sent the letter back.
Oh, okay. So out of those, do we meet the criteria of having community members with architecture, engineering, and construction experience?
My thought was not necessarily to appoint this committee tonight, but to discuss if we want to do the 9. I had actually come up with a list of 11 voting members myself, in going through this, the criteria that they had listed. But I'm looking for ideas from other board members. Okay. And like I say, nothing's going to be happening right away, so we don't necessarily have to come up with the committee tonight. If we come up with it at our next meeting, I don't think that would be an issue. Jeff?
Yes. I just have an issue. We have a letter in our binder from Superintendent of Schools, Ruth Miller, and it says, in accordance with Code of Mass Regulations 963 2.0, I'm including the MSBA form outlining the required designations. I went online and looked up that code, and for the school building committee through the MSBA, it doesn't say these members that are listed in here are required. It says it is recommended. So right off the get-go here, we're being told one thing from the school district where the actual law or the code listed on the MSBA says another thing.
And we read this at the last meeting too.
It's, it's so, again, it's like we have this adversarial position where the school district is telling us, oh, you guys, you have to do this, when the law says, no, it's recommended. And they recommend, they have 7 individuals recommended. And the superintendent is one of them, and a building maintenance person, which would be Bill Claybor, and a member of the school committee, and chief executive officer, which could be, with the Board of Selectmen, would be the chair or his designee, the town administrator, a town resident with building engineering, a member of the local finance committee or a budget official, and then individuals from the community. So my only problem right here, or concern, is again, it seems like it's adversarial where the school is saying, oh, the MSBA says you must do this, when in fact the law says they only recommend it. And it's where we get this thing, you know, us against them with the school district. And I
think it's just.
I wish the superintendent was here to address that, or to answer the question.
Will?
It's been my observation as well as my experience that the larger you have a group on any board, the less effective it is. And that was pretty well shown as I have seen a number of the meetings, is that the discussion just continued on from member to member to member and not actually getting to the heart of the problem and getting it effectively done. Because every member wanted to end up speaking something on the subject. It just goes on continually. So I look at the maximum that was recommended would be 9, and I would not end up looking anything above and beyond that because of that fact.
Any other, yes?
How many people submitted letters of interest?
Pretty much everybody that was on the board already, except for a couple. Let's see there. 16 or 17? 16?
16.
So.
Yeah, I thought for balance, I'm sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
I thought for balance, if there were 4 members from the school community, okay, so that would be the superintendent, Bill Claybog, principal, school committee member. That's 4. And then, as a board, we could determine the 5 for Templeton. And I think that would be balanced, and we would get better updates, and we would know as a town project where we stood.
Yes. 1 second, Bev first.
I think that what Julie just said sounds very good. And I think if you can get some new blood on the committee, I think it would be a good idea. Because the last committee went in circles for so long, a lot of time went by, money was spent, and we got absolutely nowhere. It's just my feeling.
Sue?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate, so Julie said 4 people from the school, and she just kind of, and then that would mean 5 from the town, so she said 1 member from the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ritter.
Well, he doesn't count as one of the 5 because he doesn't vote.
Ex officio.
Oh, so that would be 9 voting members?
9 voting members.
Oh, okay, all right, I see, so then we need 4 or 5, so then you need 4 from the general public, okay. Is it public record to let us know, like, who submitted letters of interest from the general public?
I don't think so. The letters of interest is only a real.
Yeah.
Until you decide, they're not public. No big secrets. Everybody who was on the committee, with a couple of exceptions, sent in letters.
And then 2 new people sent in letters.
Yeah, I think that's not important because, like, I know for 2 years they had contract, you know, with no money in, and they waited too long enough to name somebody who was supposed to be out there looking for land. You know, maybe we do need some new blood. I know there's, I'm sure there's, is there any new people who put?
They were 2.
Okay. So we're still off.
Now I'm stupid. Remember that?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart, you said that you talked to a couple of people that said we should do 11.
Well, they didn't say 11. I said 11. They said they didn't think 9 was enough.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We've heard some reasons why people think it should be 9. Can you give us a reason why you feel that?
Just because we're going from 19, I just figured if we go down to 11, that still cuts 8 people out, but it still gives us, you know, a good group of people. We can go with 9 if that's what the board wishes. My thought was just 11 because I went through the list and came up with that. Dennis?
I disagree with this waste of money because the Brooks land,
Quiet, please.
Brooks land was supposed to give it to us free, and we had to pay money to do the procedure we did. So we did not waste any money on that.
Yes.
I just want to concur with Mr. Spring on keeping it as small as you can. There's no doubt in the camera. There's nothing more than a mouse that was built by a kid.
What? Didn't catch
A
that.
camel was a mouse that was built by a committee.
All right, I will make a motion that we have an elementary school building committee of 9 members.
Again, we don't have to come up with the 9 names tonight.
Right, that didn't say.
Do I have a second?
I will second that because this is a town project and it is in our lap.
Okay, any discussion?
9 voting.
9, yes, 9 voting.
Well, I guess I was thinking more along the terms of you. If we're going from 19, somewhere in between there might be an easier place to go. If they're used to having so many members. It's kind of a big cut to go all the way down to 9. I would have gone with 11 too, but.
Kurt?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say I put my hat in the ring because I'm going to disagree with Mr. O'Brien. We had a generous offer from Mr.
What? Come on.
We had a generous offer from Mr. Brooks for the land. However, in my opinion, it took the committee 4 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars for somebody actually went out there and realized it wasn't a free ride. They should have went up and looked at the land. Now, and also too, if you go back, when they say roll the tape, I mean, to sit at home, I didn't go to a lot of school committee meetings, I went to every other meeting in town, I'll admit that, but to be called stupid and sit back and say, we're going to spend $30 million of your money, that doesn't set well with me, and I don't think it sets well with a lot of people. I'm not afraid to say I put my hat in the ring, because I, for one, have development experience. I'm not afraid to literally go out and get my feet wet, hopefully not, no pun intended. But I mean, you got to do the groundwork. And I know the committee's going to flip-flop around as far as because of the nature of the project. But why don't you look at who's going to do you the best good as far as for the phase you're at right now, and that's for the acquisition of the land, acquisition of developable land, and actually designing it to fit whether it be stormwater management, open space, traffic guidelines, and whatnot. To put somebody on there and say, oh, one of my children is a teacher, or somebody wants to look out the window, you shouldn't even be on the committee right now, because until we can pick the location, get the logistics, get the infrastructure under control, that person's 2 cents, so to speak, is really irrelevant. If we don't get a foundation in the ground somewhere, who cares what all the drapes are? They're not happening. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You know, we had all these people there. I like Kurt, I couldn't make all the meetings. I watched a lot of them. I did attend once. And oh my God, there was just too many people sitting around. But you know, they started out for how many years was this committee out there looking for land? They were looking for 15 plus acres. Then all of a sudden, we're down to the deadline. Oh, we'll settle for the 3 up at the center where the Templeton School Templeton Center School fits. You know, and all of a sudden it was like, I mean, come on. It just seems like nothing happens there. We need some people that are some real go-getters that aren't going to sit there and trash the taxpayer at the meetings and work for the taxpayers. Yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to make the committee 9 members. So I will take a vote on that. Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And Pat?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be 9 members. So
9 would be
9 voting members,
All right.
plus the 3.
things, so that'd
Now,
be-
Will, what did you say the advisory board person was going to be technically called?
A liaison.
A non-voting liaison?
That's correct.
Okay.
Chris?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes.
The state guidance is that a town budget official or someone with town budget experience be on the committee.
Right.
On as a voting member.
But our bylaws prohibit that.
Right, so someone with budget experience who's not an advisory board person could substitute as a voting member.
Okay.
Okay?
Are we going to have this on for the next meeting?
For the 9 people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think if we come out, I can pare mine down.
Okay.
If we, come up with 9 names and, all right? So
Can we send a letter to the superintendent?
I'm actually going to try to talk to her.
Okay, all right. Just so that she could like
If I get-
recommend 4.
Yeah, if I get home, I have my doctor's tomorrow. If I get home early enough, I'll go down.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I go through, I have a question for you. Why would you not want to go through the list right now and get it over with? Why would you want to postpone it?
We don't need to.
You don't need to, but you're going to eventually, right?
Yeah, at our next
Why
meeting.
don't you do it now?
I don't want to.
You got a bad attitude.
Thank you.
Just thought I'd let you know.
That's fine. All right, next up, discuss the request from the COA Board of Directors to increase salary of the COA Director. Yeah.
Purposely.
Come on up. You're gonna have to speak loud. I can read the letter if you want to start that way. All right. I'll read the letter that Mr. Farron sent to the Board of Selectmen. As the Council on Aging Board of Directors, we are notifying you that we have voted to increase the Social Service Coordinator and the Director's salary through the formula grant funding that is provided by the state to assist in supplementing the Director's salary at the rate of $5 per hour and the Social Service Coordinator's hourly rate by $1. We are asking for your endorsement in support of this for March's portion of the increase for the Director's increase. Since the Director's salary is only half paid by the town, this small increase will help to supplement the salary that is much too low for the responsibilities and duties that are required. Okay. So.
Do you have any questions about what the formula is? Or?
Well, my question is, I'll start with a question. It says they're endorsing the support for the March portion of the increase, which is what?
What they're asking is for the Board of Selectmen, because we need a letter from the Board of Selectmen supporting the $5 increase, so Mark will pay their portion of the $5.
Which is what, $250?
It'll be, no, so it'll be increased, so the rate would go up to $21.53, I think it is, per hour. And that would increase it for the year, Mark's portion, by $5,200.
But of this $5 per hour increase, they're not paying the whole thing, right?
That's their portion. And then the formula grant will cover the town's portion. There's no cost to the town. It comes out of the formula grant.
Okay.
That portion. So the $5 increase will come out of formula grant, and Mark will pick up their half of the portion. Because I'm going to split half town, half Mark.
All right, what is this formula grant?
Formula grant is money that comes from the state. It's currently going to be, as far as I understand it, will be $7 per elder. So for every elder that is here in Templeton, which is 1,597, we get an $11,000 funding, grant funding from the state. So, and one of those things that we can do with that money is to supplement salaries.
Okay.
So that is the reasoning behind it. My salary keeps going down because of all the cost of living expenses that are going up. My salary is going down. So this is one way to help supplement.
Say something?
Yes.
Most of the towns in the area pay for the whole director. Usually it's about 48 to 58,000. And we normally pay $17,000 a month to the other 17. And this will at least bring up a little closer and make a major mistake because we almost lost it about a year ago. So that's nice. And it wouldn't cost the town maybe next year. We might be better, we'll see.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I'm not sure that this, if we vote on this tonight, that we would be violating the personnel policy. I think we would, and I
don't believe it's effective on personnel policy because personnel policy doesn't have anything to do with forming the grant. It's total separate.
True, but it does have to do with the grade and position that you're in. You might call it a technicality or formality. You would still have to, you'd have to get the personnel board to approve moving you on the pay matrix. Even though it doesn't cost the town any money, they still have the approval to move your position on the matrix.
Will, Sue, and then Virginia.
My concern would be from a budgetary standpoint. This year we had to take it into cutting some money out of the original budget. Looking at next year's budget doesn't look through perspective. And it'd probably be level funded. If they're expecting to take it, end up using some of that grant money, are they expecting the town that they can increase their budgetary for next year? And I don't think that's going to be possible as we sit right today. I see some problems with this ongoing.
Right.
And I really hate to see us approve this, give people some money and say next year, tough luck, we're going to have to take it, end up taking money away from you. I mean, you can do that, by the way. That's not against the law. I ran into this years ago on a position that you can take the money away, but that's not in their best interest to end up doing it.
Do you have an answer?
It's a guaranteed money every year.
It's guaranteed money every year?
I can speak to the state grant.
Go ahead.
The state grant from the Secretariat of Elder Affairs it is consistent. It has actually gradually crept up very, by 10 cents increments. And you say it's $7 per elder per year now. To the extent you can count on the state for general and unrestricted aid, you can count on them to fund this grant. I really don't see them cutting the size of the grant itself. They might not grow it, they might not get bigger, but they would not think to make it smaller.
Okay. Sue, you were next, and then you.
I got a couple of points to make. One, Council on Aging, across the board, Eileen's the director, and she's at the same grade as other people in her. And I know for years, she tried to go before, am I right, years, Eileen? She tried to go before the personnel policy. She's tried to do it the proper way. The same as Board of Health did with Lori. They kept getting slapped back, and you got to do this. Okay, we'll do this. And then they got slapped back again. Now you got to do this again. And they went through all the procedures, but they kept getting slapped down. But my second point is, yes, it's great that they got Council for Aging, and I know it was Eileen who wrote the grant and got this money. Conservation has, wetlands protection fund that can bring in extra money as they've done in the past. There's other things that do. Unfortunately, there's those of us in the positions that never get that opportunity. So we sit, and don't get me wrong, I'm saying yes, something's got to be done about where she is at, because that's just plain wrong, where she's making. I don't care if you bump her up and give her a grade, whatever she deserves. But you gotta also look at the other end of it and say, what do we do about these people who don't have that kind of thing in there? I mean, you think there's ever gonna be, grants out there for the tax collector or the whoever, and I mean, it just goes to show you how unfair this whole to us 13 employees is, you know, you know, but really, she's been hurt, you know, like the assistant health agent, and then trying to get that up, and then they've been beaten up for years, and not allowed to go up.
Virginia.
I guess my only concern will be is they pay for the whole thing, Mart will pay for the whole share this year that doesn't get paid by the grant. What about next year? Now that you're at this level, are we going to be expected to pay half of this level?
No, it'll stay where it is. They would pay only their half. So they pay their, well, right now it's about 17,000. They would pay that 17,000 plus the 5,200 that's added.
So 22,000.
23.
And this is a permanent grant?
Penny? Yep.
My point is that my niece on salary, she makes like $38,000. And any of you with a master's degree making that amount of money, you would be mortified. But half of that $38,000 is paid by Mart. So in essence, you're only paying her like $19,000 a year. So I don't know what the big whoop is. So give her the money she deserves, because she's working her butt off. She is doing, you can believe this stuff. She's getting grants, she's getting, she's learned all about building policies and all that type of stuff. So why wouldn't she deserve that? So be it. If you have to take it away next year, give her a reward, a little bonus, not a bonus, but just a little encouragement for an appreciation for everything she's doing. I don't think any of you would be working for that kind of money with the credentials and all the experience she has. So I think she deserves it. And if they take it away, which they won't, well then at least she's got something a year's worth of raises.
Chief?
You know, we went through a budget crisis in case some of you don't know. And we all had some budget meetings, and we were recommended to go, you know, beat the bushes for some grants. Some of us are fortunate, we can beat them, some of us aren't. But think about this. This is a federal grant. And you pay federal taxes. You've already paid it.
State.
Take it back. Use it.
Phil?
I don't personally have a problem with anyone trying to get a better wage. However, the town has a process, and so I have some questions about that. My department went through that process, went to the personnel committee, got a job description written, got it reviewed, got it graded by the human resource consultant, brought it back, had the personnel committee voted, and that went to the board of selectmen, that got voted, and then we went to town meeting, we got that voted, we had the money in the budget, and then we had the budget crisis, and now my assistant's going off for another town. There's an opportunity there with budget cuts. So my question is, what is the current grade? What is the new grade? Has it been reviewed by the personnel committee? Has the position been graded? Has the board of selectmen approved that position and grade? Has the town meeting approved it? The grant money, how long is it in place? Is it going to continue through next year? Is the master's degree required for that job? Is it part of the job description? And that's really the key. I have a college degree requiring my position. If I have a doctorate, it doesn't entitle me more money unless it's part of the job description. So, I support anyone trying to get more money, but there's a process, and my question is the process being followed?
Okay, thank you. Well, that was the first part of our discussion, was that it has not gone to personnel yet. So it would need to do that. The grade and everything, those are already in place for her. It's just that she would be bumped up probably a step by doing this, so that she would have to go before personnel before we could approve anything. As far as your other questions, I don't know if she needs a master's degree for that job. I seriously doubt it, but you know. But yeah, we're trying to follow steps. That's why we're discussing this. Julie.
When I was on the personnel board, we had numerous discussions about adding new people for the COA, outreach workers, different positions. And after they were rated by the human resource person, Sandy Kay, I'm not going to try to say her last name. They all came out at the same level as the director. Okay? So the recommendation from the human resource person was that the whole matrix should be reworked. Right? If you're the director of a department, you should probably be at a higher grade. Okay? That's what should happen. I'm not comfortable voting on this right now because I don't believe it's gone through the proper steps. I believe it needs to go to the personnel board, and you do need to figure out where this would put you on the grid. What step is it? Okay? I think your job description should be looked at as well. I don't know if we have the money to do that.
Send it out.
To send it out. I don't think we budgeted for it. All right? So we end up in this circle. I also have, personally, I have a problem voting for an increase for one person versus the other people who took a cut. I would like to be able to do something for everyone. And I realize that the amount of money that you're talking about isn't going to come out of the town budget, but it's trying to find a way to treat people equitably and fairly. And I'm not sure that this is the way to do that. And that's just my opinion.
Virginia.
Well, I'm with Julie as far as we're not in the right place to take this vote right now. This really has to go into a lot more into the personnel policy and all of that, but I still would applaud for taking the effort to go and try and find it another way so the town didn't have to pay for it. Don't know how this is going to come out, but it was a good effort to try to.
Sue?
I have here the minutes. I brought the personal. I can tell the minutes. It's the agenda from the March 2nd, 2011. And right on the agenda, it says, discuss reclassification of COA director position. So it's my belief that they did go and they tried and kept getting slapped down. I mean, how much time is you going to slap her down? Like you slapped Lori down when we lost Lori. I mean, I know it just, I've said this before, we've looked at surrounding towns, we've looked at how they do it. And God knows I hate to use Winchendon as an example, but what Winchendon has is they have so many department heads are here, okay? They have all this grade, all departments. So if you're Sue and you're a department head and you get 8 years, you're this step. If you're Bud and you're a department head and you get 30 years, you're over here, okay? And education counts too. So if you're Eileen and you're a department head, you'd be up here. And then you've got your assistant department heads, none of this, step 1, step 2, step 5, step 12. I mean, it gets crazy. A department head should be a department head. They should all be here and then take into consideration your education, your years of service in our town, or coming over from another town, or something like that, or in the field, whatever. And we should do like that.
Bev, did you have a?
It only, just points to the work that the town has to do to make things equitable amongst everyone that is now a person. The only thing I wanted to know was if this grant money isn't used for a raise, can it be used for something else?
She has used it for other.
It's earmarked for certain things. You can only do certain things with it. And then I do use it for certain things.
Yeah. He wants to know what the certain things are that you have to use it for.
We use it to pay postage, mail, and newsletters. We mail 1,500 newsletters every month. It's used to pay postage. It's used for paper. It's used for other things that we need within the office that my budget doesn't allow for. Those are the types of things that we do use.
Penny?
I think people are getting, I guess, caught up in the fact that it's like a pay raise. Why can't she just take the formula grant and not even deal with the personnel? I mean, it's
It's,
It's not a bonus, I know that it's, but like she said, we don't have to approve or go through you if we have to post it, if we buy a current machine or a new copier or something. You don't even deal with the personnel department. I mean, why can't you just not even deal with the raise, I mean, until things are better? Just use the formula grant as to subsidize her income.
you can't do that, Jeff.
Why not? I mean, look at like the high school. I mean, how many people, a certain person that gets a contract and she sent out for a grant to get this money and that's part of her pay. I don't think it would be for your board for her to approve that she gets $50 an hour to teach children.
Let Jeff talk.
First of all, I consider myself, and I hope the elders do too, I consider myself a friend of the seniors and the senior center. My problem here and my concern is that, and I don't like this at all, I don't like using grants and any kind of funds to supplement people's salary. My big concern about it is not everyone has these funds and things to fall back on. So we get into a fairness issue. It's also, why do we do budget cuts if people are going to find ways to get around it? And a second concern is, outside of it going before the personnel board and everything, is the cost. Does it raise our cost for health insurance? Does it raise the cost for the pension? Those are costs, once they're in place, we're responsible for them. I prefer to continue down the road of trying to cut expenses. And I have made no secret that I think a way to do that is regionalization. And unfortunately, this will take some time. Hopefully, the Gardner City Council, the first of next month, will accept the animal control regionalization. And there are other departments down the road that can be regionalized. You won't lose services because it's state regulations, everything's the same. It will reduce our health insurance and our pension funding requirements, which I believe will then, along with some other cost-cutting things and some other formulas and procedures that the advisory board, the town administrator, and selectmen are working and talking about, will give us the extra money without further cutting hours and salaries to restore them and to increase the pay of people without necessarily any tax increase. I just cannot in good conscience support this, because you're using a fund to supplement a salary, and not every department, not every secretary has that advantage. And I cannot in good conscience support this. It's my own thing that I have by not doing this is, I know it's a grant and yes, it's your federal tax money that you're going to get use of, but not everybody can do that. Not every secretary can get their hours back and get their money back, and it's a fairness issue.
Virginia?
Is there a time limit on when you have to submit? How much time do we have? So if we brought it to the 13th meeting?
Well, I'll address that in a minute. It's, where do I want to go with this? On one hand, I agree with Julie, but I also agree with the chief. And in the past, and last year, we used part of his grant to pay dispatcher salaries, so that the chief could give us money for other things. So I don't see any difference in letting her get the grant to pay part of her salary. But it does need to follow the proper procedures, as Julie said. It needs to go before personnel, and it needs to, follow the steps. I'm not totally against it. I'd like to see you get it personally, but it's got to be done the right way. And so we can't consciously vote it tonight until it goes through personnel and it follows the procedures. And that would be the same for both of these. Will,
My question is this: is the grant sufficient, large enough to pay both of those salaries, which will release that money from the Council of Aging for use by the town?
The whole salary?
That's correct. If we have a grant that, is it sufficiently large enough to take and pay for both of those salaries?
I don't think so.
It's only 11,000.
Only 11,000.
11,000 and something a year, so that, the answer would be no.
No, it's not.
But the increase, it would still leave me a little over $4,000 of money left that would still have enough to do what I need.
You see what I'm saying? If it's supplied for both of those salaries, that releases some money out of your budget for other things.
Any other discussion? Good.
Are we going to deal with the other issue with the outreach worker?
I would assume it's going to be the same situation for both of them.
Okay, I think there is the social service coordinator.
Yeah.
Right. But I think there was another issue as well with that position that got unfairly cut. Hours got unfairly cut. Right.
Quiet, please.
Right.
And I was going to talk about trying to figure a way to increase that to 35 like everybody else.
Right.
I don't know where the money can come from, but I think it's about $3,000 to increase your hours back up to 35.
Right. See, that gets, to me, that gets back to the equity issue. What we did on that Friday night, I don't think we took into account that we had cut, I get them all mixed up. Social service coordinator. We cut her the 8 hours and we cut everyone else who was at 40 to 35. So I think to be equitable, I believe her hours should be restored to 35 per week.
We just
and leave
make
this,
the fair
the money
make-
issue aside.
What do you mean leave the money issue? I mean, we have to have money to pay the extra.
Right, the dollar an hour rate increase.
Yeah.
Leave that for another discussion.
Where are we going to come up with the money to give her 3 hours more a week?
That would be, what, $3,000?
It's around $3,000.
Saying we have to go before the personnel board for them to take,
For the,
want to take it out of order. They're going to say no, you can't take it out.
I don't, because you're increasing someone's salary, you're moving someone off of their step.
Right. Her step would increase.
Okay?
So they have to.
So that has to be done by personnel. They make a record.
Actually, Mr.
The second outreach worker position came in almost at a rate that I'm making now.
Right, that was the point I made.
Last year.
Right.
The spring is when that came in.
Right, and I agree that that's not right, and that's inequitable, okay? But voting it tonight as a board, I believe violates our personnel policy.
So then I have to come before you again and ask for a letter of support from Mark.
You need to go to personnel.
You have to go to personnel first.
Right, I
So,
understand that.
Yeah.
right, so figure out what you're requesting, where is that gonna put you in the grid?
Still be on the low end, whatever.
It would still be on the low end, but you need to know what the consequences are of what you're asking us to do. Okay? Because you are under the personnel policy. Right, I totally get that she is way underpaid. Totally get that, okay? But in order to follow the personnel policy, we need to know what the impact of this raise would be for both positions. Okay? Where does that put it?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
On a step increase, and I'm not speaking in favor of this because I'm totally against it, but the precedent, to me, has already been set by the Board of Selectmen on May 24th, 2010, and this is in the minutes concerning the conservation agent. This board not all these members, I believe 2 of them were members of the Board of Selectmen at that time, voted to change the step of the conservation agent from step 3 to top step, and that took effect. So a step change doesn't necessarily, you follow the personnel policy, it says you do this, this, and it goes to town meeting. But this Board of Selectmen has already set a precedent by increasing one employee's steps 4 or 5 steps. It went from 3 to top step. So I don't agree with doing it, but it has already been done. So to me, there was already a precedent there. It just shows that the whole personnel policy and bylaw is totally screwed.
So
It's grades, not steps, and the selectmen never voted on that. They just-
Yes, they did. It's in the minutes, May 24th, 2010. Yes. No, it's on the minutes, Sue. There is an opinion from the lawyer that he was being paid outside of grade.
It's a great increase she needs, not just a step. A step only gets her up, what, 50 cents? She needs a grade, she needs a new classification, grade classification for her position.
She needs about
And she's
4.
been asking for it for years.
Yes, she needs about 4 grades, but for department heads to be on the same line.
all right, so are we in agreement that if she's got to go up a grade, then she needs to go to personnel, not just steps on it?
No. They can
Yes.
make a recommendation to the
I have a feeling that, this is what I think. I think that no one in this town, including the light company, should get any increases in their pay until our whole basis for salaries and all that stuff needs to be looked at and redone. It's a mess. I would like to see every department get together with the advisory board and the personnel board and Mr. Ritter and sit down and go through all of that paperwork line by line to try to get everybody on the same page. There is nobody now, and so I don't see how anybody can justify an increase. As far as Eileen, I know she's worked hard. I was with her one Saturday and she wanted to make a whole wall down with a hammer. So, you know, it isn't that she doesn't deserve it, but we have to do things the right way.
I don't see how her using a grant and getting paid by Mark is not doing it the right way, but she does need to follow the proper steps. But, yeah, okay, so you're not denying her the money, just, okay. Yes, Virginia.
It's always a concern, grant money, when the state runs out of money or has a short year and they deny grants. And they can do it, they do it all the time. Then she's already at this level, now we're responsible for that level.
They never increased the grants.
It's earmarked every year. State.
It won't go down, it'll go up.
Earmarked every year.
Just like chapter 90, just like...
25 years, they give us based on health and population.
All right, any other? Anybody? I don't think we really need to make a motion. Do you know when the personnel board's meeting?
August 22nd of August.
Couldn't we we could have a meeting before that if we needed to.
Subject to the call of the chair, we could schedule something.
Who's the chair of that?
I am.
Could you have a meeting before the 22nd? Just...
Yeah, we can. Our meeting's the 13th.
Yep.
We could, I don't have calendar on me. We could meet Wednesday before that.
It's like, I need to do this, so I could get
10, I think August 8th.
Sounds right.
August 8th.
Yeah, wait a minute.
This is big.
All right.
Yeah, August 8th for the 13th. Yeah, we could meet August 8th.
All right, so personnel's going to try to have a meeting on August 8th. 8th,
Yeah, August 8th.
before our next meeting.
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, yeah. Well, tentative that, if the, well, we'll have it somewhere.
Okay.
Ricky, oh, you left. He's trying to have it before the 13th. Correct. In case we need to use the planning board. That's, I'll catch it. Yeah.
Okay. So August 8th, we'll have a meeting. August 8th, personnel will meet before our next meeting. So, I don't know that you necessarily have to be there, but if you can get the information to them on the pay scale, you know, beforehand.
Or maybe have somebody represent you.
Yeah, maybe Doug or Herb could be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be in the conference room at 6:90. I just got to check the availability. I don't think usually anybody's on Wednesdays. This is good. Common improvement maybe. I'll check. 6 or 6:30, whichever's. I'll let you know as soon as I know.
All right. Okay. Okay, so next on here is a request for clarification regarding the interim fire chief's role. Did he, huh?
Selectmen gonna ask for this item.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I did.
All right.
Larry's here.
Yeah, Larry is here.
There's no attachment.
No.
I just,
Larry and Captain Dickey are there.
yes,
Larry,
I saw, yeah, Larry's in
Larry's
here.
here somewhere. That's because everybody's
Okay.
talking.
I requested an agenda item about the fire chief, the interim fire chief, and the fire department, because I received some calls and I have a few concerns about a few things. An interim fire chief, or interim any position, according to the personnel policy, does not get any benefits, no sick time, no vacation, no anything. So my first question was, and people asked this question, and there was a sign on the door, that the interim chief went on vacation for 2 weeks. He did send a memo, an email to Nancy Paradise, informing her that he was going on vacation for 2 weeks. That's my first concern. My second concern is the ambulance calls that have been going to, and I don't know the number, I just know that there have been ambulance calls that have been going to Woods Ambulance because of the unavailability of EMTs, which we used to always have one in place, and when he had a full-time chief, he was an EMT. Another thing that happened, and I know it's the summer, and you know, I don't know all the work schedules and where all these volunteer firemen work. There was a fire on Elm Street, and I believe 1 or 2 Templeton responders showed up with an engine. A call went to Winchington, and Winchington sent a truck down here with some guys on it to tend to that fire. So my first question is vacation. It was not a paid vacation, but I remember when you were appointed, you said you were going to take a leave of absence for Phillipston so you could address your time to to the full-time interim position. But then you went on vacation. So that's, and missing calls.
Want me to answer that one first?
Yes. Have we missed, do you know how many, have we missed any EMT
The
calls?
vacation one.
Okay, yes.
First one you brought up. I did not ask for a vacation. It's an easy remedy to fix. I've already taken care of that problem. It was a mistake done in the selectman's office by issuing me a pay for the weeks I was gone. I did not ask for it.
I wasn't even thinking,
You've been slamming me on the blog about it.
You took a vacation. You're an interim chief.
I had that vacation planned for over a year. When I first took the interim chief, the Board of Selectmen was supposed to have the new chief in place by July 1st, and they did not. My appointment was only till June 30th.
I understand that.
Extended. I'm not entitled to go on vacation anywhere, even though that was planned over a year in advance.
You took the... Then
I did not get paid from it. I had my captain on the department who was in charge while I was gone.
I understand, but you are the interim chief. You said you could do this. If you had the vacation, you should have made other arrangements or recused yourself when June 30th, when your first time appointment was up. And why the replacement didn't happen is a whole political issue of the Board of Selectmen not doing their job. Next, calls that have been unable to, how many calls has Templeton not been able to handle on the ambulance because of not enough EMTs?
In the past month, there's probably been 3 of them.
All right.
Which is about average. If you look back in the records for the last 5-6 years, it's the same way. The calls have been that way. Even with the former chief being an EMT in town during the days, he's had calls that Woods had transported because he couldn't get the second EMT.
So you're saying there was 3. Okay, the fire truck, the fire responded to Elm Street, only 2 men. If a chief had been here, there would have been 3. Maybe not enough, but...
There's still been a mutual aid call to Winston, which is common practice with any town, or any city. When you don't have the manpower, you call for mutual aid. And that's what mutual aid is there for.
You were not recognized, Peter.
You know, and it wouldn't have made a difference if I was there or not, because of the lack of the manpower that we had there, mutual aid would have been called anyways. One more person would have not made that difference.
Well, it's my belief that if we had a chief in place, the calls, the scheduling, knowing where guys are, volunteers, and then knowing where, you know, the work schedule of these people.
We're a volunteer department.
I know we're a volunteer department.
We do not know where all the members are during the day. This was during a weekday. People were working.
My other concern is there are several grants that I believe they're ongoing or like usually repeated through the DCR. And I believe was there a grant in work for a fire truck or a partial payment of expenses or any grant for a fire truck or any involving fire equipment?
Not that I'm aware.
Chief's responsibility. And when you were on vacation, Captain Dickey was covering for you?
Yes, he was.
Is he? And I see Captain Dickey back there. All right. Were you able to fill in on a full-time basis?
On a full-time basis, no. Same thing with past practices, the chief's been on vacation. I would answer the machine at night, return phone calls, do scheduling. Same thing that past practices for years.
Have these grants, or are there, if they're in place or we're in progress, have they been done? Are they getting done? Are we missing them?
The grant did not go out because I did not receive it until the day before it was due. And there's no way I had time to get it done, to get it.
And when was that? I mean, when was it, the day it came in, do you recall, or when it was due?